the relationship you have to what you think is possible for yourself is really just to do with where you've currently placed those parameters. We love to look outside of ourselves and find all the reasons why we might not be the things that we want to be or getting to experience what we want. And of course, there's external factors that influence stuff, but fundamentally, we put the parameters in that dictate our experience. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Life by Your Design podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Boyd. I'm a master hypnotist, human design reader, and I'm here to help you play with convention, tap into your purpose, and live life by your design. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Life by Your Design podcast. I'm very happy to have you with me today. Before we dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you, if you are listening to this in March 2024, that at the end of the month, on Saturday, the 23rd of March, I will be at the Ocean Lovers Festival in Bondi, Sydney, doing a couple of workshops. So if you are in the Sydney area or you're in New South Wales or even Australia and you feel like a trip to Sydney, come down and see me in person. I'm doing an amazing hypnotic workshop where you will get to be hypnotized by me in the room and get to go really deep on a journey of self-discovery and accessing your own potential. And I'm also doing a talk around embodying action. So just a little reminder, if you're around Saturday the 23rd, come and see me. I would love to meet you in person. And as a side note, if you haven't listened to the podcast with Anita Colney, who is the founder of the Ocean Lovers Festival, do jump on and have a little bit of a listen to that, because she is very inspiring as somebody who has just come up with an idea and just gone out and executed it, even without the experience or anything else, but just gone out and made it happen. So absolutely worth a listen. But today's podcast is all about accessing your potential, realizing your potential, and how you hold yourself back from actually getting to explore that potential. Because if there's one thing that I know for sure, it is that all human beings have latent potential. Every single one of us. There is potential that you have inside of yourself, which right now, today, you're not even aware of, let alone using or bringing out into the world. And imagine if all of the human beings on this planet were actually tapping into their innate potential and bringing it out into the world. Imagine what we could create. Because without us knowing it, the vast majority of us are actually playing a bit small. And I guess that's a question to ask yourself. Do you feel like you're playing your larger than life, big dream of success of what you really want? Or are you playing a little bit small? Because when we start to think about the success that a lot of us would like to create, and, that success is different for different people. So, it may be, living in a big, beautiful house in the woods for one person. For another person, it might be in a busy city. It might be earning lots of money, or it might be having lots of time, or it might be having both. It might be able to provide for your family and for yourself in ways that right now you can't even really imagine. But whatever that success might look like, or that lifestyle that you'd love to create, it is actually possible for you. But you've got to access that latent potential that's inside of you. And if you think about the fact that 96% of our mind is our subconscious, that is very, very powerful. We're not even aware of it. And what we're doing in the subconscious is working on so much automation to get through our day. Just imagine if you were able to pause some of those automations and actually approach things in different ways, what you might be able to access. And the reality is that the people who are out there doing impressive and bold things in this world have a different relationship to their potential than the person who is playing a bit smaller or is just not allowing themselves to be all that they can be. If you take an Elon Musk, if you take an Oprah Winfrey, and this isn't about whether you like these people, but what you can say is that they achieve great things. They're bold, they're brave, and the success that they've created is because of how they choose to actually relate to their potential. And when I talk about potential, I will talk about the parameters of potential. Because the relationship you have to what you think is possible for yourself is really just to do with where you've currently placed those parameters. We love to look outside of ourselves and find all the reasons why we might not be the things that we want to be or getting to experience what we want. And of course, there's external factors that influence stuff, but fundamentally, we put the parameters in that dictate our experience. And so, one of the ways that I like to describe this is if you can imagine a house, you've got a house, and out the back, you've got a garden, and then there is a fence around that garden. And that fence basically dictates what is your land, what isn't your land. So, it tells you the space that you get to play in. It's sort of what's in scope and what is out of scope. And when you think of that fence, you can think of those parameters, like the parameters of your potential. It's effectively your beliefs. So we have a set of beliefs that contains our potential, and it creates the space that we allow ourselves to play in life. And if we want to play in a bigger space, if we want to have more access to that potential, more of it flowing and bubbling up into our lives, then what we do is we move the parameters. We move that fence, those beliefs outwards to create a bigger space for us to play in. So if you think of somebody like Elon Musk, think about where his fence is. It's so far out. He's got a massive, great big garden. And in that space, there is so much potential for him to access. There's so much new stuff for him to come across, so many more inputs, so much space to play in. And so it's interesting for us to consider how big do we think our garden is and where might we like to move that fence to and those parameters. Because the way that we're living, the way that we see the world dictates what is possible for us. And so the environments that we put ourselves into and the relationships we have to the concept of work or having an employer or what it would mean to run our own business or our relationship to income and money and status and success, all of these beliefs that we have will dictate how much we can access our potential. And so always the starting point is for us to actually deconstruct this stuff. This is what I do with clients is we change this stuff. We change the beliefs so that we actually break down that fence and we start to create a bigger space for you to play in, a space where you can start to access other parts of your potential that you didn't even know that you had. Because what our beliefs do, our perception of the world, the way that we relate to things, keeps us stuck in this place where we believe what we believe is true. And yet, if we can just slightly change the perception that we have, we actually change our whole experience. We change what's possible for us and the potential that we can access. So we often can't see it for ourselves. And if you are sat there now feeling in any way stuck, like I would like to do something else, I would like a different lifestyle, I'd like more success, but I don't feel like it's possible for me, then what we need to do is just deconstruct some of those fences that are keeping you quite stuck and trapped at this point in time. And this is one of, my genius areas is that I can see potential. It's a very projectory thing as well in human design. Projectors are great at seeing potential. And, this has tripped me up in romantic relationships. I will not lie. I have fallen in love with potential in the past. But as, the work that I do is a fantastic thing because I can see the potential in you, even if you can't see it yet. So as we start to change your beliefs, as we start to move those parameters, you can start to tap all of this potential that you didn't even know you had. And when you start to change the environment that you're in as well, you're able to start to really test and explore some of this potential. If you talk to anybody who has decided to leave full-time employment and start their own business, it's a whole experience in itself because you start to come really face to face with your potential. You have to push the boundaries because you can't create something different from where you were. And this is why a lot of small business owners or people that start on their entrepreneur journeys in the first few years and sometimes longer will sabotage themselves. There's a lot of self-sabotage because when you start to actually come face to face with your potential, it's a little bit terrifying. Most people are actually pretty scared of realizing their full potential because as you start to open it up and you get into more of your potential, your life can completely transform. And in what can even feel like a very short period of time, you can feel like you're living a completely different life. This whole journey of actually really looking at yourself, because you have to do that as part of it, of looking at how do I see the world? How do I relate to things? Where have I put these parameters in? Where am I holding myself? Is possibly one of the most exciting journeys that you can go on, which is why you will meet people who have started to delve into this personal development world and it becomes almost a bit addictive. Because the more that you keep moving those beliefs and you move those parameters, you open up all of this incredible stuff that's inside yourself that you didn't even know that you had. You know, if we take an Elon Musk again, or we take somebody else who's very successful, they've just kept moving those fences, those parameters out and out. That is ultimately what a growth mindset is. It's the ability to keep changing the space that you play in. And we have to ask ourselves are the jobs that we're in actually allowing us to access all of that potential? And I'd guess that for most people, the answer to that would be no. We know from an employee engagement perspective that employee engagement goes up, employee experience is improved when we are able to use more of our skills, capability, experience in the role that we're in. But just the nature of the way that businesses work, especially if you find yourself in a bigger business where you tend to be put in a specific lane, is that you don't actually get to use all of those things. You don't get to really test your potential. Or the way that you test your potential is within a predetermined almost framework. And this is a lot of life. You know, we go into school and in school, there is a framework. There is a way that our potential is allowed to flow and move and grow and flourish. And then we go into a work environment where most of the time there is again another structure which contains our potential. So then we're not just taking our beliefs about what's possible for us, but then we overlay it with this structure and this can further deepen our beliefs. And it's like taking that fence and digging deep holes and cementing it in so that we start to become so disconnected from what is possible for us. And we almost struggle to really dream about what we can create. And this is the thing, we can all dream stuff up. And I believe so strongly, if you can dream it, you can create it. All you have to do is be open to accessing your potential. And you don't always know how, but you can always work out how. You can always find someone who knows how. But it's possible in everyone. The other thing about potential is that your human design contains your potential. All of us are designed in a specific way. And when we align to that design, when we live that design, we start to access that potential. And when I talk about that, when I say live your design, I don't only mean, the environment that you put yourself in and the way that you feed yourself and move your body and sleep and all of this stuff that we're generally quite aware of. But there is so much more to moving into alignment with the way that you're supposed to move through the world. And when you do, all of that potential starts to open up. And so it's almost a little bit like if you imagine having an amazing sports car and you get in it and you never get out of second gear, you can never experience the potential of that vehicle. And you have a vehicle. And what we want to do is get your vehicle up into fifth, sixth gear, where you're in that place where it's smooth and it's flowing and you're actually experiencing all of the potential of that engine, of yourself. So this is why human design is so exciting, because it gives us another way to look at our potential. And everybody's potential is different. And so your journey is about breaking down the beliefs that are keeping you stuck to not access your potential, moving into alignment with your human design so you start to naturally open up that potential. And honestly, allowing yourself to really, really dream and envision what you want, because you can create anything when you open up that potential. It's the way for a greater success than you can possibly imagine at this point in time. So if you don't yet have your human design chart, head to my website. You can get it for free. It's a body graph where you just pop in your date of birth, your time of birth, and place of birth, and it will pop out your personalized body graph. And the link for that will be in the show notes, but it's essentially michelleboyd.com/get-your-chart, I believe. But I encourage you, I hope that I can inspire you that you have so much more potential than you realize. And if you're excited about the possibility of pushing the parameters of that potential, then it's time to explore. And you're very welcome to drop me a message. I'd love to have a chat to you. It's time to look into your human design. And it's time to really start creating the life that you know deep inside that you can create. There are some people in life who are happy to kind of roll along with things. That's perfect. That's cool. But there's some people in life who have a rumbling inside of them. It's like a knowing that there is something else that's possible for them. They might not even know what it is. They certainly don't have any idea how to get there, but they know it's there. It's almost like a little, what could be a fire in their belly, and it's just kind of a humming heat. It's there smoking away. And if you know that's you, then it's time to start to explore your potential, because we are absolutely able to do more than we could possibly ever imagine. So this is where I leave you, friends. If you've enjoyed this podcast, give it a like, give it a follow, send it on to somebody that you think might find it valuable. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful week wherever you are and whatever you are doing.